Welcome to the Media Tastemaker Summit, produced by Taste TV. Today's panel is My Big Break, featuring Chef Jernard Wells of the Food Network and Cleo TV, and Danielle Chang of Lucky Rice Television Series and Lucky Chow, moderated by Amy Sherman from Cooking with Amy.
Back.
What's good, y'all?
With 4 unique chefs, each with their own vibe.
We're about to hook it up Afro-Cuban style.
It's about to go down, Ghana style.
I'm one of the pioneers in this vegan movement.
It's all about those family dinners.
Every week,
Just want to get in there and get nasty with the chicken.
watch them throw down.
We have finally touched down.
This looks incredible.
I cannot wait.
New Soul Kitchen.
I can't wait either.
New season premieres this October on Cleo TV.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to We're going to do a video.
Good morning, everybody. Danielle, it's lovely to see you again.
Great to see you, Amy. I didn't know you were going to be moderating, so what a great surprise.
Yeah, Jernard, it's wonderful to meet you. I've enjoyed your presence on television, your infectious enthusiasm, something both you and Danielle really have that I think is part of your star power. So this session
Thank you.
This session is about big breaks. So I thought we would start off with talking about big breaks, about what were the big breaks in your careers, and what were the big breaks that kind of led to your presence on television. So Jernard, let's start with you. Tell us about your big breaks.
I think my breakout moment was I've been with Food Network for several years doing shows, starting off Ann Burrell, Chef Wanted, and they were always one-off shows. But then I had the opportunity to create this new show named Cutthroat Kitchen, where Elton Brown was the host of it. And I said, you know, I developed a model for myself where I was going to treat every show as if it was my last show, which means I was going to go on and do everything that I could, the best of my ability, from an entertainment standpoint, as well as from a chef and cooking standpoint, because there was always cooking shows. But let's face it, it's still about the entertainment and about the ratings as well, and being able to do both. And so I went on and gave it all I got, and some quality about that, as they say, your speaking chops and your cooking chops. My cooking chops really stood out, and it led from one call to the next, where I actually appeared on Cutthroat Kitchen, which was typically would be a one-off show. They kept bringing me back and kept bringing me back. And so I said, man, I must really be on to something. Granted, I was winning the show also because it was a competition show. But from there, it led me to my opportunity of being one of the finalists on Food Network Star Season 12. And I took that moment. It was I think Food Network Star, the show was about a 12-week long show. So, of course, you have to leave from home and you have to go off and and you have to be sequestered during that time, limited contact to family and everything. And I said, you know, Chef Jernard, and it gives you the time to determine if this is something that you want to be. Like, do I really want to be an entertaining chef? You know, 12 to 15-hour days on set, running around, cooking, and constantly have to talk, just being cognitive of how you operate. And I took a moment and I evaluated, is this where I see myself? And I talked to my wife and my family, and I said, this is what makes me happy, you know, food, the entertainment industry. So I wanted to just give it all I got. Lo and behold, from that, it propelled me into not even being eliminated from the show. Granted, I walked away from Food Network Stars being the runner-up. But as I always say, even though I'm treating every opportunity as if it's my last opportunity, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about, now what? What can I do every time the camera turns on that can be something that will get me to the next step? What is it that I can say? What is it that I can do? What skill set can I show? What entertainment or layers like an onion can I peel back to continue to allow the producers and the directors to say, Chef Jernard has that it factor, that star quality factor. So even though I walked away as the runner-up, from there it led me into it led me to the opportunity of being one of the contributors on Cooking Channel's #1 show, Best Things I Ever Ate, where I get to sit alongside with greats like Martha Stewart, Wolfgang Puck, and from there it really, like how a teacher or someone continues to study, or anyone studies and continue to hone in their craft, I do the same for myself as being a chef. I'm always seeking new innovative foods, new innovative ways to cook, adventurous restaurants, something that someone else hadn't thought of or maybe hadn't been highlighted. And I'm always looking to bring that to the table. And I'm one of those people who, from that, I take every opportunity to build a relationship. I don't go onto a set and meet with a producer, casting director, and treat it as if that's going to be my last time. I learned that it's still, the motto is still true in this world. It's not always about what you know, it's who you know. And knowing the right people, being in the right place, and always making sure that I position myself at the right time if something came up, where Chef Jernard will always be on the forefront of their mind. Hey, let us call him. And by virtue of the fact of doing that, I've been in the entertainment industry now going on 11 years. I haven't had to pick up the phone or send out an email once saying, hey, I would like to be on this show. I want to be on this show. It became a point where I get the calls, I get the emails, and I even take it to, as far as on the digital side of social media and things like that. I continue to make sure I put content out on my own social media pages. So if any of them come across my feed, I'll always look marketable. And that's one of the biggest things that's led to the big break of the premiere show that you see, New Soul Kitchen. New Soul Kitchen, season 1, I was blessed with the opportunity to win a taste award for it. I was also blessed to win two Telly Awards for it also. And with that being a new show that was coming out, and granted, it was my own show that I was hosting. I guess I was a little nervous because the thing is, even though I've always made guest appearances and things like that on shows, it was nothing that was never my own baby to really just nurture. And I'm thinking to myself, Jernard, you got to do this right. You want to make sure you do everything right. Because I didn't want it to be, as they call it, a one-hit wonder show, last for one season, then it's gone. And lo and behold, we got renewed for a second episode because the ratings and the show did amazing. Still tests out the roof. And now with season 2, as I say, I moved up. Not only am I a host, but I'm also a producer of season 2 of New Soul Kitchen.
Well, then we're gonna talk about the producing role as well. But let me turn to Danielle. Jernard really talked about a series of breaks. It wasn't one big break. It was kind of one break leading to another break, leading to another break. How would you characterize the progression that you've had, especially with Lucky Rice?
Well, I'd say that I've had a very different career trajectory, and I'd say probably goal than Chef Jernard. You've done an incredible job with your story, and congratulations on your new show, by the way. But I kind of fell into television by accident. I am an art historian, former professor of critical theory at Columbia, and a magazine publisher, had worked at Goldman Sachs. I had done a lot of different things before finding Lucky Rice 10 years ago. And with Lucky Rice, I really set out to develop a voice and have that voice be sort of the arbiter or the tastemaker for Asian culture through cuisine. Really felt that food was a very universal, positive lens, apolitical lens to bring people together. And so we launched Lucky Rice, which was a Asian festival, which is an Asian festival. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary. That's in 10 different markets across the US. We put together groups of chefs and we have a big party. This year, COVID, not so much. We did it virtually. It was fun. We did cook-alongs. But my big break in television came about 5 years ago when PBS came to CAM, the Center for Asian American Media, and said, there's really a lack of stories about Asian culture, especially in the food space. There's Martin Yan, there's Min Tsai, there's legacy chefs, but there's really no show that talked about the diversity of Asian Americans and the foodways that they've left the imprints on throughout America, and how they're innovating today. And so, somebody came to me and said, hey, would you like to help us consult on this show? So I just ended up writing some thoughts together, and it developed into a show. And I was the de facto host because we literally had no budget. So we were fortunate to get a really nice grant from CAM, the Center for Asian American Media. So, we were able to do a great season one with a producer formerly from Bruce Seidel from Food Network. And that gained us national traction, and we're now working on our 5th season. So it's super exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No, that really is.
It is. It's great. And, it really is, I think, the culmination, Amy, back to your question of my career trajectory. Like, I never set out to be on television, but I always set out to be an advocate or to be a voice or to be a journalist. And I think that what I'm able to do as the creator of Lucky Chow is to offer that voice.
Well, you're both in a position as producers to really have control over what you're doing. So with a lot of television shows, I'm not sure people know how it works, they're hiring talent. You are not hired talent. You are running the show. And for Jernard, you've been on both sides. You've seen what it's like to sort of come in and then learn about how it all works, and then really take off with the production side. Talk a little bit about the skills that you need to produce a show, because I think a lot of people, it's their dream to produce a television show, and they don't really understand what goes into that. So walk us through a little bit what that was like for you, Jernard, with your latest show that you produce as well as host.
One of the biggest skill sets that you definitely have to have is an eye for the moment, because there are certain moments that the camera grab. There are certain angles that even the camera grab, because when you're telling a story, whether it's through food or just acting, you have to be able to grab the audience. And that's one of the biggest things that I look for, even when creating it, and then look on the other side of the lens, as I call it. What I look for seeing when I'm looking back at myself and whomever my guest chefs is, where are those moments that grab my attention? Because I always try to take the blinders off and stop and not look at it from the aspect of, oh, I'm Chef Jernard creating this project, but more so I'm Jernard Wells who's at home watching this project. And that's because at the end of the day, it's the viewership, it's the consumer that's at home that's watching it, is who's going to determine if the show is a success based off the numbers and what you do. So I always look at shows from from grabbing the angle of the food, because of course I'm coming at them from a food content standpoint, grabbing the angles of the food, what are, as I call it, my culinary point of view, the sound message that I'm delivering while I'm creating a dish or what I'm talking about. Always make sure that it's something that's attention grabbing, something that's relative to what's going on today and what could potentially be going on in the months to come. Because you don't want to create content, as I say, outdated content before it even gets out. Because we know the vast majority of the time when we're creating content and creating shows, it's typically 5 to 6 months out before the show has went through editing and everything and it hits. And so if you're talking too outdated, now your content that's just freshly come out is old, and then it still doesn't gravitate to the viewer. So I have to think about those counterparts. Also, one of the biggest things is lighting. Lighting are things that, and it's those small, minute things that you would think wouldn't play a factor. Even lighting, how well the set or wherever your environment is that you're filming from, how well the light is. You know, sometimes you can't have too much light. You want to, depending on what kind of ambience you're creating, you want to make sure the lighting is right. Also, the sound. And these are things that I had to learn to correct myself on, you know, when I'm talking about sound, whether or not playback and listen at the microphones. When you're talking through the microphones, is it coming over too loud? Because those are the same ways that the viewer at home is going to hear it. Is it coming over too loud? Am I talking too low? I have a southern drag, and not everyone has one, depending on where they're from that we have. Am I talking too slow? Am I talking too fast? You know, those are the things that I put in. And what I do is with each individual that comes on, I always try to as well make sure that the energy is meeting each other. And when I say the energy, you know, I'm more of an upbeat kind of person. And I guess it's just that about nature where I project this energy. So sometimes I may get guests on the show that doesn't have that energy. So instead of me trying to make them bring their energy level up to me, and we got 2 people bouncing off the walls on the show, I'll bring mine down a little bit to match theirs, but at the same time, keep the show on an upbeat tempo. So those are things that I truly look at when it comes to creating a good food concept show, if that kind of answers your question.
Yeah. Danielle, you didn't work on various different television programs the way Jernard did. So Lucky Rice was your first TV gig. How did you learn to produce a show?
Well, I think the number one factor between a self-produced show and a show for which you're hired, I've been hired to host shows in the past. So I've done a couple of series before with different publications and different outlets. But the production aspect is you got to fundraise. You have to find that money, right? So I'm on PBS, and it's I'm fortunate to be the producer and to be the host. I think that Chef touched on a lot of the different questions that go through a producer's mind, you know, in terms of the types of stories that you're choosing, but also the production aspects like lighting, like sound, and etc. I leave that to the experts. I hire a team of producers, directors, editors, sound guys, etc., who are really, really good at what they do. And then I tell my story and beg people for money to support telling stories about Asian culture to a broad and greater understanding. And so, you know, that mission helps me to define the types of stories that I want to tell. So I want to tell stories of people that have really brought their take to the American soil, and a diaspora of ways.
Well, let's transition to this topic of fundraising and sponsors. You are incredibly masterful. I was just talking to Andre about your incredible partnerships that you have developed over the years of just absolute incredible brands to work with, and as well as people. I think people don't realize that especially on PBS, there isn't someone handing you a budget to do a show. You basically have to fund it yourself, and find sponsors who are going to support what you want to do. So talk us through about how did you learn to do that kind of fundraising from being a professor? That wasn't part of, I mean, you worked in finance as well,
Right.
You know, what are some of the key skills to building those relationships and finding
Well,
sponsors?
I mean, I was very, very fortunate because CAM, again, the Center for Asian American Media, which is funded by PBS amongst, you know, many other organizations, the NEA, they gave me a full grant to produce the series. So they commissioned me to actually for a couple of years. So they not only produced it, they paid all the bills, walked me through, and presented it. So the process was really going through with PBS. There are actually a couple of hundred member stations. So you have to sell the show to each one of those member stations. They then decide when they're going to, if they want a particular show, and if so, when they'll slot it. So it's kind of tricky, and we're in almost 100% of the top 25. We're in 100% of the top 25 markets in about, you know, 95% of the country. So we're really proud of having accomplished that, and that's really through through American Public Television, which is a nonprofit organization that facilitates and helps producers get access to public television on PBS.
Congrats. Yes.
Jernard, how about for you? How have you found funding? How have you worked with, found sponsors and secured that?
You know, one of the things is I think I want to touch on what was just touched on. I think it is key to delegate. You know, you don't want to be, as they say, a jack of all trades and a master of none. So there are certain areas that I know my best qualities and attributes and what I focus on. So for finding funding and things like that, I acquired a PR team and a management team, and I have them to go out and acquire the funds. And what I tell them is, my goal is to create the best content or project myself in the best light. And what I have my PR team to do is make sure that I'm getting as much coverage as I can, whether it's on your national networks of being on NBC, the Today Show, Good Morning America, any of those shows and then that helps my management team go out and secure the endorsement deals, the branded sponsored content. As a matter of fact, speaking of that, this coming Sunday on TV One, I just did a branded sponsor deal with Ragu Sauce, which is amazing, might I add. But I'll be doing a live Facebook takeover with them, and those are things because I'm not a big major network or anything like that. So what I learned is a lot of these things, this chef, Jernard, you have to be willing to go out and do it yourself, and you have to be willing to develop a team that has the expertise in those fields so that they can focus on doing it. And as I always tell them, I need you guys to focus on bringing in the brands, bringing in the sponsors, bringing in the ad dollars. And if you can focus on doing that, I'll focus on doing everything I need to do to ensure that it's secure, that it stays, and that they're happy with the footage that they see. And that's what has really been working for the past few years, now that I projected myself in this new light.
So Gerard, something that struck me when we were talking before was about the big break, was about how two words came to my mind, was how you leverage opportunities. Every opportunity you leverage, you look at that opportunity and you figure out, how am I going to make the best of this? How is it going to lead to the next thing that I'm going to do? How does TV complement the things that you do? Because you were a chef before you were on television, and you've had different ventures, different kinds of things that you've done in your career. How does TV kind of fit in that puzzle of the overall picture of who you are? How does it complement all the other things that you do?
You know, and going back and touching on that whole big break, as I always tell people, I didn't land on TV. TV landed on me. It was never originally my goal to be on TV. You know, I was a chef by trade. I've been a chef now for 22 years. And that is all I wanted to do. Was I wanted to create great food for people to eat. You know, we're called culinary artists for a reason, and it's because we paint a picture with our plate. And that was always my biggest love, was that I really loved the experience that people would give me whenever they would eat a dish. You know, I started cooking at a young age. I started cooking at 8. My father was a chef. So that's where I picked it up from and learned from, and spending time in the kitchen with him. Might I add, my father passed away when I was 16 years old, and what really led me into this culinary journey, because even though I love cooking and I would cook with him, if anyone asked me what I was going to be when I grew up, I always tell them I was going to be a lawyer. And that's what I thought I was going to be. I guess I picked up the talking part of it. But when he passed away at 16, I wanted to buy a car going into my senior year in school. And I didn't want to burden my mother with asking her for money. And I had some money from working, cleaning people's yards, cutting grass, actually $50 to be exact. And I came up with the bright idea. I wanted to open up a restaurant. And I pitched the idea to my mother, because she was a nurse for the state of Mississippi. And she said, Jernard, you want to open a restaurant? I was like, yeah, Mom. I learned how to cook all these dishes. I got all the recipes that my dad left for me and everything. And I like to open a restaurant. She was like, how much money you have? I said, I got $50. She was like, $50? Where are you going to open a restaurant up for $50? I said, out of your kitchen. Well, that's the only place. So she said, who are you going to sell this food to? I said, the people in the community, everybody that I've befriended, the construction workers, the guys who laid sod, you know, all of these people, even my friends that were in school that didn't like the cafeteria lunches. I was like, dude, those are the ones. So she said, well, you got to do it the right way. And I'm thinking, what's the right way? She said, you know, all those encyclopedias I invested in that you barely go to, that's on that bookshelf, go get those, figure out what it is to create a business plan, and have it ready for me when I get home. Of course, we didn't have Google back then. So if we had had Google, it'd have been a whole lot easier. So I figured out how to create a business plan, presented it to her. And she said, okay. All right. So she took me to the local courthouse. The people in there laughed. I think he's a businessman. Business license was $5. They gave me the business license. And then they sent me to the health department to get a TV test. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm on my way. She took me to get supplies. And I remember to this day, I don't know why it just etched in my brain. When we pulled up out at in the wholesale parking lot, she said, Jernard, how much money you got? I said, I have $45 because I paid $5 for the business license. And she said, you know what shipping and receiving is? And I was like, yeah. And she said, tell me. So I tell her what shipping and receiving is. She snatched $10 out of my hand and said, this is for bringing you here. Shipping and receiving ain't free. So I'm thinking to myself, oh man, my own mama taking my money. So we going in and shop the first week. I made $150 from selling food to the people in the community. Long story short, as the workers would come by in the morning to pick up their food for lunch, I started upselling them on breakfast and things like that. End of the summer, I was making $3,000 a month selling food out of my mother's kitchen. From there, I decided, hey, I can get a brick and mortar restaurant. And then I invested in getting a brick and mortar restaurant that was in the local city from me. And then from there, I decided I want to go to culinary art school, pay my way through culinary art school. And after that, then my instructor really convinced me to just travel around the world and learn about food, and then open up these vast doors. And so I came back to my restaurant, and I was like, how can I reach more people? How can I reach more people outside of my restaurant? So I started writing love cookbooks because my pen name was The Chef of Love. And my first book was 88 Ways to a Heart, Cooking for Lovers. And somewhere along the line, the book ended up becoming a bestseller. And Paula Dean and her team heard about the book, read the book, and they reached out to me. And she was doing this show called Paula's Party with Food Network and things. And she wanted to know if I would come and be her sous chef while she was doing a show in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And she had me on stage cooking with her and her husband. And she really sowed so much wisdom into me and really taught me a lot about the business and these different jewels and how to operate. And she endorsed me. And when she endorsed me, it was like I got bit by the entertainment bug. And from there, everything just took off. And I was like, oh, I really got to do, everything. But one of the biggest gems that she told me was, don't wait for entertainment to find you. Develop your business and develop your brand. So if you ever find success in the entertainment industry, all of those things will be in place. And I said, So what she meant was that was the key for me. I started creating more cookbooks. From there, I also launched my own manufacturing company, which is by the name of Haute Cuisine. We're in over 300 Whole Foods across the United States. And I started doing those things before ever finding TV. So when the door of TV actually opened up and I did that first show with Food Network, I had all of those vehicles already in place. And it wasn't that I was doing entertainment, and like a lot of them who didn't have that wisdom instilled, they then try to play catch up. All right, I got to write a book. Let me create a sauce or a season things. All those things were already in play for me.
So it sounds almost like the opposite, like TV complements all the other things you do rather than any other way.
Yes.
Got it. What about for you, Danielle? Your events are really incredible, top-notch events that you put on. What is the relationship between the events, the television, all the things that you do? How does TV kind of fit into the big picture?
Well, I think, with Lucky Rice, the event series, the goal was to spread, the love and popularity of Asian food and celebrate, all of these great chefs, whether Asian or not, that are cooking things like ramen and, innovative sushi rolls and foods that we live off of these days, Korean fried chicken, what have you. So that was the platform to celebrate Asian food. And I think that it just translated very well over to the TV as a medium, because there's so many stories behind all the chefs that I met through these festivals. We'd go down to Miami and meet these, like Peruvians that cooked the best ceviche, or, we would see how, maybe Chinese immigrants would do their take on a roasted pig, with chashu style or something like that. These are natural stories of immigration and about flavors and convergence in America. And those are the types of stories that we told in Lucky Chow. And so I basically had like a 10-year education by hosting the events and then going and doing the series, and then now evolving and finding different platforms because I'm represented by CAA, and so they have me on the speaking platform, endorsements, etc. So, I'm like you, chefs, just so fortunate that I have this opportunity. I feel that we can tell our stories and our voices. So I, just recently participated with the Kellogg Foundation and spoke on their really amazing day of racial healing, where it was all about using food as a cultural unifier. Next week, I'm speaking at JP Morgan Chase about a similar topic about, what's really happened to the kind of like to people of color and the post-COVID environment, and how food can be maybe perhaps a healer or a bridge to help people get past cultural bridges, if you will. So I don't know, Amy, I already forgot your question. So I think it had to do with how I'm like scatter-minded and have a lot of different things on my mind.
Yeah, no, it was really about how television complements the other things that you do. And I think, you know, it supports the message that you have with your show is a through line, right? Mm-hmm. With all the things that you do. And so I think it supports it. I think you answered it in terms of it supports it in terms of the philosophy that you have and the message that you're trying to get across.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chef Wells and I, you know, we both, like, we're fortunate, like you were saying, we lived these lives and these stories. Like, he had the cookbook, I had my book as well, a lot of experimentation in the kitchen growing up, you know, with Asian aunties and mommies and traveling and all of that. Like, it just became, we then had all these stories that were made for television. I don't know that you can do it the other way around unless it's scripted, right?
You're right. And I agree with you, Dan. 100%, I truly believe that food is the ultimate unifier.
Yes.
You know, my motto, and one of the things my great-grandfather used to always say to me, he would say, Jernard, you'll never see anyone eating and frowning. It's very hard to do. Have you ever tried to eat and frown? It's hard to do, but
yes,
food bridges the gap with everything. Food is one of those things that really bring cross barriers, cross lines. I don't care what cuisine it is. Food crosses those barriers. Yes. And might I add, I truly do love the Asian cuisine, the Asian diaspora, and the culture of your food. And when I say I love it, I'm not just saying it just to be saying it. Yeah. I loved it so much that 5 years ago, I launched the Asian restaurant in downtown Atlanta with two Asian partners. Yes, that's how fascinated I was with the culture and really just the harmony of how you guys really bridge the gap on bringing people, family, and food together. The name of the restaurant is East Wave Asian Fusion. But it's a melting pot of my African American diaspora, being French and Cajun, and bringing in Creole dishes, merging with Filipino, merging it with Malaysian cuisine. Oh man, yeah,
delicious.
It's truly been a success. So I am with you 100%.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's a lot of cross-pollination, you know, with like the Asian and African cuisines. Yes. I don't know if you're familiar with Chef JJ Johnson.
One of my great friends. Actually, we have a show. Yep, we both have a show on the same network on Cleo TV. His show is named Just East with Chef JJ, a very good friend of mine.
All right. Well, I adore JJ. So we just shot with him on season 4 of Lucky Chow. But, you know, field trip. He has a restaurant.
The rice bowl. Yep.
Rice, yes. And he took me to the Senegalese market just around the corner from his restaurant. And all the ingredients that, you know, he cooks with. And there's a lot of similarities, actually, you know, between Asian and like West African cuisines.
It is, yes.
Yeah, what he cooked. Yeah.
So I see you. We're on the same page.
I know.
Danielle, you touched on the C word, COVID. This year, the double whammies of COVID-19 and kind of a racial reckoning have really dominated our culture and have really influenced our food culture in some pretty profound ways. What, thinking about the pandemic, of course, there's a lot of negative, but what have been some of the opportunities or positive things that you have experienced or that you see coming out of the experience of this year, both the pandemic and again, this sort of coming to terms with our racial discord in this country?
Well, I mean, I think that, listen, most of us, all of us, we have spent a disproportionate amount of our time this year thinking about food. Because we've never been locked up like this before, where we've had to learn how to cook, worry about, you know, where our food supplies are going to come from. You know, you remember the mad rush to plant gardens. And well, anyway, I think just this return in interest to cooking and to gathering, to using food as a center place for dinner gatherings with families where you can have an exchange of ideas. That is what has kept a lot of us sane throughout COVID. Well, if not sane, at least that's what we've been doing. We've been learning to cook. We've been learning how to nurture ourselves through food. And so I think that that's a good thing. And, you know, it's tough. I live in Chinatown. I have two, you know, teenage daughters. They think it's safe to walk around New York City because they've always walked around New York City. They take the subway to school by themselves. And, you know, it's frankly not that safe right now because we are the subject of profiling because of the China virus. Right. I hate to say it, but it's scary. And, you know, there is violence. I'm not going to, you know, deny it or sugarcoat it. And for the first time in my life as an American, I have felt really scared, you know, for my safety and that of my children walking down the street. So that's the negative, but you asked me for the silver lining, and the silver lining actually is my daughter she turned 17 last week, and we had a birthday party for her, and I cooked a whole bunch of like Chinese stinky foods. It was like the Harvest Moon Festival, so we just cooked all our family favorites, which, you know, include like preserved tofu or mustard greens or fermented foods, you know, and like, so her friends and her families came and they were like, what's that smelly smell? Oh, it's worse here. Oh, that's nasty there. And then I kind of broke it down. I was like, kids, look, it's all about fermentation. Like, what's different between this and beer or Parmesan? You know, and like through that conversation and that cultural understanding, everybody tried this. They got to understand the significance behind longevity noodles, why we eat fish whole, you know, the meaning behind dumplings, certain things like that. There was true cultural exchange happening in real life, you know, and I thought that was beautiful. And it was a special moment that came about that took on extra significance because of the C word.
And for you, Jernard, what has this year been like for you? How are you coping and finding opportunities during all this challenge from every angle?
It's definitely been a blur, you know. Actually, when you say 2020, that's like using a curse word. It's crazy. It's crazy. This word, you don't get the 2020 out of here. This has been a very interesting year. There's been some sad sides to it, of course, with a lot of the tragedies that we've seen in the world. From it, actually, even lost some family friends to COVID-19. So it really touched home. So we know that it's real, you know. But on the upside of it, from a business standpoint and an entertainment standpoint, we have still continued to thrive and do well. You know, when it first hit, I was thankful enough with season 2 of New Soul Kitchen that just came out in October. We were literally in New York filming March. It was like March the night was the last day, and I remember when doing it leading up to March, no one was really taking it serious. It was only one guy in the studio, and that's when it was just kind of chatter and talk about it. one camera guy that would come to the studio every day wearing a mask, and we would always crack jokes with him, thinking, oh, it's this, he's just a conspiracy theory and this and that. And it wasn't until I was walking in the airport the next day and it seemed like it was only me and my sous chef in there. And we're like, okay, what's really going on? But after that, as we got into it and being quarantined and sheltered in my home for months at a time, because I travel so much, it really allowed me the opportunity to sit still and evaluate Jernard wells. It allowed me the opportunity to sit still and build a greater relationship with my children. Because normally we're all, my children, my wife, we're all on these fast-paced lives. I'm always flying here, I'm going there. And even though I'm seeing my kids and I'm being with my kids, it was nothing like being in the house with them every single day. For me to realize that I was not the boss of my house anymore. Because the kids were like, we doing this, Dad, we doing this. But it's truly, from that standpoint, it's truly been so amazing. I really had the opportunity every day straight to cook a new dish for them to be my worst critics. But then from the business side of things, my business really picked up as far as doing a lot of online social media things. A lot of companies wanted to structure and start doing team buildings. So I do a lot of private cooking classes where companies and their employees are at home. This is innovative way where we do a lot of Zooms and things like that. So if people didn't have their Zoom game up, now's the time to have that Zoom thing going down. That, and then from the manufacturing side, business picked up because the competition really just went to social media and promoting our products and more of the online sales. I allowed my kids to actually start getting into creating products, and they launched it when it first hit, and there was no sanitizers over the world. They launched a citrus hand sanitizer called Clean Wales, a play off of the Wales family name. So it's been good, but there have been some sad times. But for the most part, I can't complain.
So it sounds like you're still finding some opportunities.
Yeah. It's, it just became a different one. It just became there was just a different challenge. That was the biggest thing, just a different challenge, and it was about how do you get over this hurdle? How do you get over this stepping stone? And those are all, and what I realized, there are always going to be challenges in life, and some more difficult than others. But I truly believe in just taking it on by the storm, even to the point of what we see going on in the world. We see so much division and we see so much separation. And what I teach my children and practice in my home is, as they say, charity starts in the home first. So if I teach my children how to operate in a manner, how to love in a certain manner in my home, then they have no choice, because it becomes embedded in them when they leave outside of the home, how they operate, how they respond, how they treat someone else, how do they show love, how do they show compassion. And if we can all come to a solution of doing it in each one of our homes, then it will spread abroad. But even though I can't change the world, can't change the city, I can just do my part from what I instill in my family, and then allow them to carry it out abroad with everyone that they encounter.
Gotcha. We have a follow-up question from Danielle. How do you merge or balance your brand and work across the live events, books, television series? Do you find that all three are more powerful for you, or is one kind of driving the others? What's the synergy between all the things that you're doing? And obviously some things have probably changed due to the current environment, not being able to do what we did pre-pandemic.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it all, hopefully, people think when they think about Asian food or Asian culture, or they'll think about Lucky Rice and the work that we do, whether it's through the TV or through the the books or the festivals where, you know, we're not creating content per se, but we're really showcasing the richness of all the different chefs and creators out there. Since the pandemic, we've had to obviously evolve a lot. So American Express and I put together a series of cook-alongs that brought together each of the episodes from each of the guests from the new episode for season 4, which launched this during the pandemic. You know, obviously we weren't able to travel and do live events. So instead we did these smaller sessions and viewings, which included bonus content from the chefs that we worked with. We've had to transition a lot of our stuff offline. We're pushing to do curated restaurant boxes. We've tested retail concepts in the pandemic. Again, with Amex, creating an essential Asian pantry box with where I curated my favorite sort of Asian spices and oils and herbs from chefs like George Chen from China Live. That was available to American Express cardholders as a sort of pandemic pantry must-have kit.
Cool.
This is a couple of the examples.
Yeah. Yeah. Jernard, I hope your kids are going to celebrate National Hand Washing Day, or have some special promotion that's coming up next week, October 15th. We all thought this was a joke, but it's a real holiday. So get your kids to jump on that.
I know, right? Yes.
Have you had other concepts that have come to you during this period? Anything that you've decided to develop during the pandemic?
There's always something new, and my team is just always vetting through them, and then they push them to me. But for the most part, we've really just been sticking the course with everything that we have.
Gotcha. And we had a follow-up question for you about your TV presence and the concept of celebrity chef. Do you consider yourself a celebrity chef, and what does celebrity chef really mean to you?
Oh man, you know, that's a hard one, because I wouldn't say if it's necessarily a hard one, because it's when I look at chef, it seems like the word chef is just used so loosely now. And I don't say that to take away from anyone that wants that title or that use that title, but I feel that it's definitely a title that should surely be earned. And what I mean is, you have to determine, what does celebrity chef mean? You have some people that may cook for celebrities. Then you have people that are on TV. Cooking for a celebrity doesn't make you a celebrity chef. That makes you a chef that cooks for a celebrity. There's a difference. Becoming a celebrity chef is when you manage to bridge the opportunity to create a brand and a household name for yourself. And then that celebrity status starts to supersede itself. You can become a celebrity chef from TV, from writing books, or even from creating product. Those are the key ways of becoming a celebrity, because there is a meaning to celebrity. And when I say I feel people use it so loosely, you don't see me just because I put a stethoscope on. I'm not calling myself Dr. Jernard, you know, and put on a white jacket. But you have so many that just started practicing the field, and they instantly start saying, okay, I'm a chef, or I'm a celebrity chef. Maybe I appeared on one local TV show. That doesn't qualify. And I feel that, and once again, I reiterate, I'm not downplaying anyone and their hard work and what we do. What I'm saying is, there should be tiers and levels of accomplishment. I don't work as hard as I do. I know Danielle doesn't work as hard as she do. To earn a title, to then turn around someone else that hadn't even started off yet, grab that title and run with it and just loosey-goosey just use it. I feel that it diminishes our value, our hard work on why we fight to reach a certain level, a certain plateau where we reach to even achieve that kind of notoriety, because it is hard work. It really is. And you have so many that, even when you go to culinary art school, just to break out the stats on culinary art school, because I went to culinary art school and I went twice, and you don't have to do that. But in order to be considered a chef, you either have to have went to culinary art school, and then when you graduate culinary art school, you're still not considered a chef. You're considered a certified culinarian. And from there, you have to be in a management capacity, managing a body of people in a restaurant or owning your own restaurant or catering company for a minimum of 3 years to become a certified chef. Then from there, you got sous chef, executive chef, chef de cuisine, all of those. But if you don't go to culinary arts school, you still can become a certified chef if you work in a management capacity in a restaurant for a minimum of 5 years or on your own for those 5 years. Those are the stats. But we have a lot of people that just fast track themselves on it. Now, that's a topic and a horse of a whole nother race, and I don't want to get on my soapbox and start even talking about that. But to answer at the end of that, yes, I do consider myself a celebrity chef, because I feel that I've done enough and I've put in the work for enough TV time and build those accolades to be considered one.
Excellent. And what, another question, what advice do you have for those who are building their culinary career and are thinking about their brand, thinking about being prepared for opportunities in the future? What advice would you have for them? Let's start with you, Jernard, and then we'll.
The biggest advice I always instill in myself, and I would only give advice that I apply to myself, is keep one word locked in your mind and in your heart. And that one word is endurance. Endurance, and we know that the race is not always given to the swift. It's given to the one that's willing to endure. This is not an overnight success. This is not an overnight trip. Be willing to endure in the race and be willing to always go above and beyond to achieve whatever that goal is and whatever that heart's desire that it is that you want to achieve in this entertainment and celebrity field. And it doesn't even have to be in the entertainment field. It can be whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve in life. Don't expect it to happen overnight, because see, sometimes when things happen too fast, we're not mentally or physically prepared for them, and we lose them just as fast as we receive them because we weren't prepared to receive it. That's just like when somebody wins the lottery and then you see a year later where are they now, and they flat broke, and you wonder how. Well, did they already have their mental finances together? Did they have people in place, things like that, to maintain and help structure them? It's the same way with the success that we want to achieve in life. So always lock that in, endurance. Be willing to run the race. You don't have to shortcut it. Be willing to put in the time. Be willing to learn about whatever it is that you want to achieve, so that once you have that knowledge, you can be the best. And whenever you walk in a room, be willing to offer your knowledge, because the competition is not with anyone else. The competition is always with yourself. Always strive to outdo the last you.
Excellent. And Danielle, what advice would you have for those looking to kind of pursue their careers in the culinary and entertainment intersection of a world?
I mean, I think Jernard did it really, really well. Just try to outdo yourself, be the best you. And, with that, you're going to develop the storytelling. You're going to have a whole body of wisdom that you can share with other people. And there's nothing wrong with getting older. I think that getting older is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I wish that everybody could age wisely. So with that, I'm gonna say goodbye to you too, because I actually have to go do something with my little ones over there now. But thank you so much for having me on this lively discussion.
Thank you as well.
Thanks for spending the time with us. And if you have any links that you want to share, please leave them in this chat, and I know we'll get them up online as well. Thanks, Danielle, and thanks, Jernard. I really appreciate your time and sharing so much of your experience. And have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.
Thank you guys as well. It's always a pleasure joining you. And make sure you follow me on Instagram at Chef Jernard.
Excellent. Thanks all.